There we are, some great noises in that little Tice gear ident. Mind you, you're not allowed to make that sort of noise anymore because you can only go 20 miles an hour in most of the country, it seems. Certainly most of London, and now it transpires most of Wales, for heaven's sake. Howard, a very good morning to you. And if you've got a question for Howard, give us a call, 0344 499 1000, and Aaron will put you straight through. Extraordinary times we live in, Howard. So much going on. Obviously, you've been talking a lot about ULEZ, and that we've seen Cambridge ditch their scheme, and in Glasgow we're seeing what's happened to air quality levels. It seems to have got worse, not better.
Well, that's the irony, isn't it? They've put a traffic control congestion charge scheme in place. They've measured the air since it's been in place, and the pollution is worse. You couldn't write it, could you, Richard?
You absolutely couldn't. So there's two critical things that I wanted to get through today. You've got an exclusive expose to do with toxic air pollution in the tube, and also you've just published in conjunction with two other groups, as Fair Fuel and the Motorcycle Action Group and the Alliance of British Drivers, an important publication called Cradle to Grave, a comparison between battery-powered electric vehicles and internal combustion engine vehicles. Let's start with this first. What's this? This is going to all MPs. What's this telling us, Howard?
Well, we've been looking at this before. I actually produced a report a couple of years ago similar to this, and this is actually a much more in-depth analysis. A lot of desk research has gone into this. We were criticised with the first report. They were saying we didn't do enough of the references that they looked at. They think that weren't very sturdy. But now this one, they can't criticise whatsoever. What we've looked at is actually the cradle to grave, right from actually when the lithium comes out of the ground all the way through to the disposal of the electric vehicle, comparing it to the same thing with with the diesel and petrol vehicles. And it's very simple that when you actually analyse it, and I'll read this out, our research has shown that from cradle to grave, battery-powered electric vehicles have little or indeed no CO2 advantage over internal combustion engine vehicles. It's as simple as that.
I mean, that is the summary. It's a serious 20-page document with some fantastic information and also some very helpful diagrams and pictures showing this whole cradle to grave thing. Because what I've used the expression, we've been sort of essentially, this is a form of green colonialism. When you look at what is going on, we're sort of, virtue signalling, but actually the conditions in some of the open cast mines where children and people from some of the poorest countries in the world are, like the Congo, are digging out rare earth metals in order to virtue signal. And yet this report says that it makes almost no difference on a cradle to grave.
Well, that's exactly right. And unless the point is, the energy needed to actually run or charge our vehicles. You imagine we've got 37 million vehicles in this country. Let's say a quarter of those move to electric vehicles. To actually, the infrastructure is not in place. And if we did actually put the infrastructure in place, it's still being produced. That energy is still produced by fossil fuels. The only way you can actually say that EVs will actually be good for the environment in terms of from cradle to grave is if we have completely clean energy supplies, electricity supply, charging supply, and that has to be nuclear power.
Which is decades down the track. So this is what's going to happen to this report now, and where can people see it? Is it on a website that they can look at?
If they could go to send me, later on I will be publishing on the Fairfield UK website the actual link to this actually report, and they'll be able to look at it and they can download it.
Download it as a PDF.
Yes. And what's happening this week is every single MP will have in their pigeonhole this report, and it's simply saying, for your information, you've got to understand this, and our important thing is to stop the 2030 diesel petrol ban.
Absolutely right, which of course is 5 years ahead of the ban across the most European nations. Yep. That they're looking for ways to delay, and being led, I think, by Germany. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. Let's get this into perspective. We were at 2040 a few years back. Then Boris Johnson said, let's make it 2035. And I think he woke up one day with a bad headache and said something along the lines, let's move it to 2030. This is no empirical reason, no objective reason why this is happening. And as you know, I produce a Centre of Economic Business Research report that the cost of the 2030 ban is the benefits in terms of environmental benefits. The cost of actually achieving those environmental benefits is 5 times the benefits. And we're looking at 80 billion worth of green benefits, to put it in a nutshell. It's going to cost 400 billion to get 80 billion.
Just extraordinary. Well, Jackie's just messaged in saying the 20 mile an hour limit in Wales is said to save the NHS 93 million yet the hit to the economy could be over 4 billion.
Yeah.
Does Drakeford need a maths tutor? I'm pretty sure he needs lots of things, including a maths tutor. It's so serious. So,
well, Richard, one of the things about that the 20 mile an hour thing is driving at 20 mile an hour emits something like 37 to 40% more NOx than at 30 mile an hour. So this is nothing to do with cleaning the environment, is it?
Clearly not. And if you're genuinely worried about in terms of safety, in terms of accidents, well, you'd reduce the limit to 5 miles an hour.
Well, exactly. Well, you just get rid of cars.
Or just get rid of any form of movement.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a risk to everything in life.
Well, isn't that 15-minute cities? Isn't that what we're going to just keep you inside your house?
Well, as I say, the biggest risk in life is never taking one.
Exactly.
And it's got to be calculated, but that's how we progress, that's how we move forward. So this will be on the Fairfuel website. What do you think is really going on within the EU on this debate? I mean, obviously the German economy is spluttering and struggling. They're in recession. Huge manufacturing nation, massive automotive industry that is squealing.
Well, the similar pro-diesel and petrol or sensible sort of campaigning groups like Fairfield UK across Europe, I'm in touch with a lot of them, and they're saying the same thing. They're clueless. People don't know what's happening over there. There's a disparate sort of response to actually they think we're mad at 2030. 2035, they think most of them are mad now, and 2040. But what they all agree, and really is, we should be looking at clean fuel technology evolving organically rather than actually pushing us into these edicts and costing economy, hitting everyone in the pocket. And one of the things on that CBR report, that every single household in this country in 2030 will have to pay £1,000 per year all the way to 2050, even if they haven't got an EV car. So we're all going to pay for the benefit of people running around in electric vehicles.
There are so many areas where we heard, I think it was just last week, that the cost of, if we get rid of all our gas boilers, which is the ambition, there's about 23 million of them, folks. Then we have to get rid of all the gas pipe infrastructure. That's like 60 odd billion. That's almost £5,000 per household. I mean, just unbelievable madness. If you've got a call for Howard, 0344 499 1000. We'll take a quick break, and then, Howard, we're going to be talking about this expose and exclusive you've got about toxic air and the treatment of staff within Transport for London. Don't go anywhere. It's Tice Talk. It's Talk TV. Welcome back, my friends, to Tice Talk. We have got unbelievable. I don't know where time's gone. We've only got 40 minutes left before Cardi P, Peter Cardwell, is on from 1 until 4, and then Trisha Goddard from 4 till 7. Well, we've still got Howard Cox in the studio. Howard's been talking a lot about the horror of ULEZ, as well as actually sort of the horrors of congestion charging across the whole of the United Kingdom. But during this process, Howard, you've been also looking at the comparison between the quality of roadside air in London and the quality of the air, the toxic air, in the underground, in the tube. And you had that meter you showed us a few weeks back, and you discovered that actually, I mean, a lot of the air down in the tube is seriously unhealthy. And as part of that, you were then approached by some people who work for the tube with some pretty astonishing revelations.
Yeah, so we've got to give some credit to two guys. It's Rob and Mickey, and they're quite happy for their names to be mentioned. In fact, Mickey's lost his job as a result of being a whistleblower, which is a bit sad. But they came to me following my revelations that it's about 1,800 to 2,000% more particulates down at platform level compared to roadside level. And yet at roadside level, where it's very clean, we're being charged £12.50 for the privilege of breathing that air. Down there, it's very, very dangerous. But what's more important from this, these two guys are dust removal people, which is quite right. They should be cleaning up the underground. We applaud TfL for doing that. But the conditions of work, their conditions of work have been appalling, and they're breathing in, and get ready for this, asbestos and arsenic dust and other carcinogenic dust particles. And they complained about this for the last 5 years, saying that we need better protective clothing. They've also looked for ways of actually sort of getting it across and saying, look, can we work together to make this better? But they've been ignored. And it's gone right up to Sadiq Khan level, through TfL, even their unions. They even approached Susan Hall, the Conservative candidate, and the previous one, which is Sean Bailey. And they've asked, please, could you help us with this?
So they, I mean, it's obviously, in a sense, cleaning anything is very important. Those of us that use the tube, we know you can sense it in the air. There's dirt and there's dust, and there's therefore groups cleaning it. And I guess because we know that asbestos was used in so many different elements of construction, there's probably no surprise there was asbestos. But it's when it's disturbed that it then becomes really dangerous. And anybody in any working environment should have the appropriate protective equipment and everything to go. So they've obviously got, essentially, they've raised it with management, and they're saying management's not properly dealing with it. Management, I guess, is saying the opposite.
Well, they're actually bullying them to keep quiet about this issue. And going back, you're absolutely right. When you disturb asbestos, it becomes a dust. It moves around in the atmosphere. But they haven't got the equipment to keep it localised. And when they have asked for that equipment, it's been turned down. And they are trying to do something to improve it now, TfL, but really the horse is bolted. And one of the issues they have is that they're actually getting rid of the dust, in ordinary skips, or general waste skips, one of the things that the whistleblowers Rob and Mickey told me is that there's been no asbestos surveys done, and that is a legal requirement. And these are the sorts of things. Now, it's important, Richard, to understand that this dust is disturbing and is going through the whole of the network.
So, I mean, obviously, asbestos regulations are very, very strict.
Yeah.
And health and safety executives. So. And I think I've seen some correspondence where actually TfL reject that accusation and should say that. And we did ask TfL to make a comment for this programme, but they haven't. So they will reject this. But there was actually a comment in June that the mayor, Rich, I'll just read out. TfL are working closely with Imperial College and others to see if there are any concerns in relation to the air quality, I think in the tube. The good news is none of the laws are being breached at all. Health and safety rules in relation to the World Health Organization and stuff. I think that's pretty extreme. He says, let me be clear. The evidence we have is the air in the underground doesn't breach any health and safety rules at all. I mean, based on what you saw with your World Health Organization meter in the underground, that is simply not true.
It's absolutely not true. I mean, this is a complete cover-up. They're trying to deflect the fact that there's a ULEZ at roadside level. We're being charged £12.50 and everything's rosy down in the underground. It can't be. It's an enclosed space. We respect the fact that there will be dust down there. You said earlier on just now, we walk in there, you can smell almost the particular smell, the fumes as such. That you accept to that sort of thing. But what's worrying is there's asbestos and other carcinogenic material, a particulate matter. And these guys, I promise you, I've got 200 pages of documentation of correspondence between unions, Sadiq Khan, TfL with these guys, and I'm sorry, they are right. They've been forced to work in conditions that are damaging their health.
And that obviously is a very serious allegation. I repeat that TfL have rejected this, and you're always going to have that issue with employment disputes. But yes, asbestos regulations are very serious. But the other issue that I've got is, you talk about roadside air quality, but of course there's a lot of vents coming out of the tube, essentially exhaling the air in the tube, essentially along the roadside. Is there any testing or evidence as to the quality of that air coming out and the impact that might have in the surrounding area by that vent?
No, but we're working on that. I've actually done one here, just round the corner from these studios, the Shard Tower, just here, round the back of here. And I've stood here with my trusty meter, and there's no doubt about it. The quality of air is not very good at all around those vents. As you walk away 10, 20, 30 metres, the air quality improves. It is trying to be forced upwards. That's what the vents does. But fundamentally, there is stuff coming out. And I repeat, there's probably asbestos particles coming out.
I mean, it's unbelievable. So, in summary, to conclude, Howard, on this really important topic, the state of the toxic air in the tube, what would you like to see to happen?
Well, I think it's only right, and I hope the mayor and the next mayor, and I hope that's me, we're called for an independent assessment of the quality of the air down there. We've got to keep it away from government, got to keep it away from politics. We need scientists down there, proper scientists, not paid-for scientists like the Imperial College. They got £1 million out of Sadiq Khan, don't forget.
They've got to be independent.
They've got to be absolutely independent, and we look at the impact of vented emissions on surrounding roadside air too, not just down there. The whole impact of what the tube is doing to our environment.
I think that's right. I think we need an independent assessment of the air quality in the tube. Yeah. And look, we know it won't be as good as being out of the countryside or being on roadside. We know that, but actually having a genuine understanding, and then when you've got that comparative, for those who are using the tube daily, going to and from work or whatever, what's the impact? Someone suggested to me that if you commute 4 or 5 days a week on some of the tube lines, it might be the equivalent of smoking a pack of fags a day. I mean, I don't know if that's right or not, but this is the data we need, isn't it?
Exactly that, and that independent assessment will actually come across. And we know what's in smoking, we know what the particles in there. That's the test galore and that sort of thing. Why can't we do the similar thing by taking it not just at one platform level? We've got to do it at about 400 or 500 different points right in the tunnel and right where it comes out, and where the hazardous waste is actually disposed of as well.
Absolutely right. I mean, these are serious issues that we've raised today. It's a serious call for an independent assessment. I repeat that TfL have rejected the allegations from those employees, but this is really important. It's about our health, it's about the air quality. The Mayor is continuing to stand by his ULEZ extension on the basis of air quality, and it seems to me an absolute outrageous, essentially sort of a distraction from the much more dangerous air quality down in the tube.
When he regularly quotes 4,000 people dying every year from air quality in London, and when it's one of the top 25% cleanest cities in the world, what's happening down in the tube?
Yeah, what's the calculation down in the tube? That's what the independent assessment is needed for. Thank you so much. Now, we've just got time to go to David in London, who's on the line with a question for Howard.
Hi, Richard and Howard. It's about electric vehicles.
OK.
Even if electric vehicles were affordable and there were plenty of charging points, driving is too difficult now because they've cut road space in half and are continuing to cut ever more road space with clean air zones, etc. So there's likely to be a serious shortage of cabs in future because drivers will give up as the job is too difficult.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's not really a question. It's
Hello?
freedom to is being affected by policies, anti-driver policies, and clueless, ill-informed policies by politicians who haven't got a clue about road user strategy.
No, the government and mayor live in fantasy land because they think a city can operate without cars. It's mad.
Well said.
Thanks.
Unbelievable. David, great call. Thank you very much indeed for that. It's just madness, so much madness. I need to do a show with some positivity, but it's quite difficult at the moment. Let's head to the West Midlands. Chris may have some positivity for us. Hello, Chris.
Hi there, Richard, and hello, Howard.
Hello.
Howard, directly to you, as you mentioned just, well, a bit earlier, that they're improving engines all the time.
Yes.
One thing that's gone unnoticed is the diesel engines, especially the injectors, yeah?
Yes.
Now, years back, when they invented the diesel engine, it had just one hole in the jet, in the nozzle.
Yep.
In the injector. Then it became 3, which burned the fuel better.
Yes.
Nowadays, they're using 5 or 6 and even 8 in the nozzle of the injector, but they're much, much finer. So when the diesel is being pushed through, it's more of a mist, burns a hell of a lot more efficiently.
You're absolutely right.
Bang. And what people don't know is the pumps that they use now are so high pressure, they have to be depressurised before you can work on them. But people miss that. The other thing that's not mentioned is the AdBlue that's added.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, Chris, time's marching on, Chris. I'm going to let Howard respond to those points.
Well, the issue about, you're absolutely right, what I've been calling for, and you've got it spot on, Euro 6 diesel is actually cleaner than petrol at the moment, and what we should have been allowed, and this is our point, if we didn't have the 2030 ban, which is impacting on manufacturers' decisions on what they're going to be producing and manufacturing, if we didn't have that ban, we could go to Euro 7. Euro 8, Euro 9. That's called actually, technology advancing properly, rather than being told you cannot do this, you cannot do that. You got it spot on, my friend.
Yeah, the thing Howard, is, I think they're at the point they can't even really go any further. But if they do, it's going to be incredible. If you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I do, Chris. It's going to be shocking. Chris, I've got to move on. Chris, thank you so much indeed for calling with that question there. Just finally, last point. Could you settle this, Howard? Hybrid and EV vehicles are heavier than their petrol diesel counterpart. They're causing more damage to our roads like HGVs. So is it time to actually tax them more for the extra damage they might be doing to the roads? And is that the reason for the potholes?
Well,
Great question.
it is absolutely right. They're about 30% heavier, the electric vehicles. I drive a hybrid vehicle, and it is heavier than my previous diesel vehicle, etc. But watch this space. I think it's 2025. We're talking about, I think Jeremy Hunt mentioned EVs will be taxed. So those smug-looking faces driving through on electric vehicles.
Yeah, people like me with electric car. Howard Cox from Fairfield UK, London mayoral candidate. Thank you so much for being with us here on Tice Gear. Well, there we are. That was Howard Cox. So much to talk about there, about the air quality, about what's really going on in the tube in London. You know, this is the serious stuff. And as I say, repeat, we're calling for an independent assessment of air quality in the tube so that everybody knows. We keep being told, follow the evidence, follow the scientific data. Well, I tell you what, let's have the data, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.